Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, close. Matt and I soldier on without the help of producer John this week. We do have a full show, though. A lot of commentary coming up on what we got today. We also want to include the hiring of a rather controversial figure in Formula One. Yeah, we'll tell you who it is and why they're controversial and who hired them. More details on the Formula E 2025 schedule. Got Indycar's return to Nashville for the first time in almost 20 years. Well, that prompted a tire test. How'd it go? Well, that's what we're here to let you know. That's why you come to us, right? Tony Stewart's got a deal with the car maker. Should Stewart-Haas Racing continue, and exactly how is it going to look if they and when they do? And, well, that's just all the tip of the iceberg. And trust me, we're not the Titanic. We're going to run right on through that thing, and we'll keep on rolling. But we have to take a short little break to begin with just to get the business out of the way. We'll get it rolling next.
On the Championship Racing Network.
We didn't like our qualifying set. Hey there. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson here. Producer John not able to be with us, but he says next week he'll be back with us. So make sure that you're with us then. And thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get the business out of the way right offhand. Our bosses, where we do our podcast, Cross Flags, they apparently forgot that Wednesday was a company/federal holiday of Juneteenth. And, well, they're being really, really stingy with the keys to the podcast studio. So we couldn't get in on Wednesday, and Thursday was here in Birmingham. You might have noted the day that Major League Baseball came into town for the game up Rickwood Field. Mm-hmm. And our producer was doing her show that she does Monday through Friday out at Rickwood Field. She was out there all day long. So she wasn't available on Thursday. So at that point in time, it was just like, good grief, what the heck? So, yeah. And then last night, the radio station that I worked for in Birmingham had our 8th birthday party. So Friday was out. So, yeah, that's why Cross Flags did not have a podcast drop this week. Sorry about that. But we're going to do it this week. We promise. We don't know of any holidays coming up.
Nope.
Okay, double checking. We're pressing right now to have our podcast producer, Molly, become a key holder. It's, yeah. Soap opera. So that's the story. Again, sorry, we missed a week. We'll be back. But that being said, let's get into this. And a very limited slate of races last week, at least amongst the series that we cover, 2 to be exact. NASCAR headed to Iowa last Saturday, Xfinity competition. Things, well, they weren't going to get settled until we got an overtime session in. And it was a close battle. Sam Mayer holding off Riley Earps for the win. That gets Sam his 2nd win of the year, 6th win of his career to date. Final caution coming out on lap 245 when your moonlighter, John Hunter Nemechek, had his left front tire go down. He ends up slamming the turn 4 outside wall when he was battling with his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Sheldon Creed. And I don't know whether this is Creed's fault or anything. I'll be real honest with you. I'm saying this because I didn't watch it. But I'm just saying, anytime I hear of trouble like this, why does Sheldon Creed's name always seem to pop up?
I don't know. It's constant, but
he's just around. Even if he's not causing it, he always just seems to be around it.
Unfortunately.
We'll see.
It was pretty. It was hard racing, but it was
clean.
Belligerent racing.
Belligerent. Ooh, hello.
He kind of tried to take what wasn't there.
Okay. He felt that there was a lane where there wasn't a lane.
Yeah, a little bit.
I got you. So anyway, that sends the race into overtime. Mayer and Earps restarted on the front row beside each other. Neither could shake each other. Margin of victory at the line for Mayer, a slim 0.146 seconds. I mean, really, 0.15 of a second? That ain't much.
No.
Corey Heim claims 3rd, trailed by Sammy Smith, then Sheldon Creed. Cole Custer in there with Matt DiBenedetto, Chandler Smith, your moonlighter Ross Chastain, with Daniel Dye completing the top 10. So now you got 4 drivers who have 2 wins. So in seed order, they are now Chandler Smith, Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Shane Van Gisbergen. Single wins belong to Justin Allgaier and Jesse Love. So there you got those drivers locked into the playoffs. The rest in on points, led by Cole Custer, then Creed, Riley Earps, then A.J. Allmendinger, Parker Kligerman, and Sammy Smith. So you got 6 in that are locked with wins, 6 in on points. And we're starting to see a little separation here. Sammy Smith, 31-point lead over Ryan Sieg, so that stretches out that gap for that final playoff spot just a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm not certain I'm comfortable enough to go making calls. I think we can call the first 3, Custer, Creed, and Earps. After that, maybe a little less comfortable. Allmendinger, probably, but I'm not willing to say definite.
You still got... Whoa. No, there's no more road courses left before the playoffs.
No. We do have Watkins Glen, but that's in the playoffs.
I'm going to have to say I agree with that one.
Okay. Time will tell. I mean,
I would have to agree with that one.
I have a hard time discounting Allmendinger on oval tracks because he's gotten better, but he's still that road course specialist.
Yeah.
You know.
No doubt.
So, I don't know. We'll see. Sunday, Cup Series took to Iowa Speedway for the first time ever. Chose to make the first one a late afternoon event going into the night. And, well, he's been close a couple of times this year, but the defending series champion, he's always had something go sideways. Could be running out of fuel in the final lap, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, something like that. After the race, he told his crew chief, Jonathan Hassler, had come on to the radio with less than 10 to go, reassured him this time he had enough to make to the finish, and the victorious Ryan Blaney said, quote, I don't even remember him saying that. I figured we were good, but I don't remember him saying that. Would that bother you as a crew chief to where your driver came on and goes, yeah, I didn't realize he even told me I was good on gas?
Well,
or are you happy that your driver's locked in?
I'm more happy that he's locked in on what he's doing in the seat than listening to what I got to say. You know, if you're locked in doing what you need to do, I mean, let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah. You know,
the way I say it.
And the only time I think I might be alarmed at that is if the math worked to the point where you realize, no, you're not good on gas. At that point in time, you're really starting to raise red flags.
Yeah.
And then you want to get your driver's attention.
Yeah.
Blaney led the race a total of 4 times, career high 201 laps. He was 0.7 of a second up when he saw the checkered flag, beating William Byron to the line. Chase Elliott We'll kind of get back to him in a minute. Was third. Christopher Bell, fourth. We'll definitely get back to him. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Joey Logano, Josh Berry, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, Brad Keselowski fill out the top 10. So here you are. 3 wins each, locked in seed order. They're Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron. Then with 2 wins, Christopher Bell, and single wins give you Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Cindric locked into the playoffs, and that means 10 of the 16 Cup spots are spoken for. 6 that are in on points right now start off with Martin Truex Jr. in what is his final year of Cup Series racing on a full-time basis anyway. Then Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace. Now, unlike the Xfinity Series, things are not separating out. Wallace has a rather slim grasp onto the 16th and final playoff position. Joey Logano breathing hot down his neck. 6 points down is Joey Logano, and we got 9 races left. So, yeah, nothing is settled here.
No, not even
at
close.
all. I'm not even so certain. I know Martin Truex Jr. has got a lot of points, but I'm not 100% certain that I'm willing to lock Martin Truex Jr. in yet.
I'm not willing to lock any of those 6 in.
There you go. So you and I are pretty much right on it when we think about that same thing. For the record, by the way, when time ran out on the 24 Hours Le Mans, it was Ferrari that was proclaimed the winner. They had turned 311 laps, and you think 24 hours and they only got in 311 laps? You need to look at Cirque du Sarthe. That's a long course, boys and girls.
Well, Mother Nature didn't want to
help.
play nice either.
Yeah, Mother Nature didn't help at all. The Ferrari hypercar entry bettered the Toyota GR10 hypercar by just over 14 seconds. You think about that. 24 hours of racing and your gap at the line is 14 seconds.
That was actually one of the closest Le Mans finishes in recent years. Pretty
cool stuff. The United Autosports Oreca entry, driven by Indy Next driver Nolan Siegel, as part of that trio, claimed the win in LMP2. We bring that up mainly because Nolan Siegel is going to be a centerpiece when we get to IndyCar talk in a bit. This weekend, much busier than last weekend. Later today, weather permitting, and it looks like everything's going to be good today. Xfinity Series up in New England for the SIAPS 200, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. USA has the coverage on television. Radio-wise, it's PRN. The race coverage starts 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Things got rained out for what they were trying to do on track yesterday. Cole Custer is your pole sitter for today's race. Sunday morning, we'll start with Formula One running the Aramco Grand Prix of Spain. 14 turns, 2.9 miles long on the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. It'll air on ESPN here in the United States starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, and qualifying begins while we're on the air.
I think so.
We'll double check on that just to make sure. While he double checks on that, he'll also step up to the tee box here in a moment. Cup Series takes center stage next. It'll be the USA Today 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That again on USA and PRN radio, so television-wise, TV or radio-wise, whichever you prefer. Race coverage starts 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Qualifying set for today. How they're going to determine the starting lineup changes a little bit.
Anybody got a good caffeine shot to give me a boost of energy? Because
did you not put an energy thing in that drink right there? Okay,
no,
just checking. I wanted to find out.
Because I literally, the old saying, you want to beat your head through a brick wall. Mm-hmm. With this, I want to beat my whole body through a brick wall. This is becoming so overly complicated. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the rule, as it states, starting this weekend. Instead of having the first rounds or the final round speeds determined 1st through 10th, 2-round qualifying, right?
Yes.
Drivers from Group A during the final round will set the outside rows from 2 through 5. Group B will set the inside rows 2 through 5. Okay? Two fastest speeds will be on the pole and the outside pole, and then Group A and Group B. So, in effect, round 2 is not going to matter, save for setting the pole or setting the front row. In a way. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Whatever happened? And I'm going to go pull this quote up, and I'm going to read it direct. I mean, word for word, directly from Brett Griffin. He's a NASCAR Cup Series spotter. Mm-hmm. when it was shared yesterday, what the changes was his immediate repost quote tweet on Twitter. Does anybody else miss one round, 1 to 2 laps, and you start based on fastest to slowest?
Yeah.
I
know.
Why are we overly complicating a simple process?
Oh, wait. It gets better.
Sure.
Here's the rule. 7.4 qualifying format for oval track. 7.4.0 specifically. If one or both groups are unable to complete the final qualifying round due to weather or other adverse circumstances, only speeds posted in the first qualifying round will be used. That stands. Then we add, quote, the fastest vehicle in Group A and Group B will assign starting positions first and second in descending order, fastest to slowest. All remaining Group B vehicles will be assigned odd number starting positions, third, fifth, seventh, in descending order. All remaining Group A vehicles will be assigned even numbered starting positions, fourth, sixth, eighth, 10th in descending order, right? Okay. Again, why are we overcomplicating something here? Assignment of starting grid positions 1st through 40th with qualifying groups. This is 7.9.1.3. Here's .A. This was existing. Starting grid positions 1st through 40th assigned to eligible team owners in the order of final qualifying results. B is the fastest single qualifying lap posted by each eligible vehicle in its assigned group will determine its starting grid position. Here's C, and this is where things changed up again. The pre-existing part of Rule C was all vehicles that advance to the final round of qualifying will be assigned starting positions 1 through 10 based upon their speed posted in the final round in descending order, fastest to slowest. And then they had to add the fastest group vehicle from Group A and Group B will be assigned starting positions 1 and 2 based on their fastest single lap in final round in descending order. The second, third, fourth, fifth fastest vehicles in the final round from Group A will get 4th, 6th, 8th, and 10th starting spot. The second, third, fourth, and fifth fastest vehicles in the final round from Group B will be assigned starting positions 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th. Did we need this? Again, I asked that question because
no.
In the end, if you're Group A and I'm Group B,
let me tell you where it come from. It come from qualifying last week at Iowa.
Yeah.
They decided to jumble every freaking thing up because from round 1 to round 2, from Group A to Group B, which this is the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah.
Group A to Group B, here's an idea. Line them all up. You do your qualifying draw. Throw away this stupid metric system.
Yeah.
Do a draw. Okay. Me and Steve, I'm driving... We'll just say it for hypothetical reasons here. Steve's in the 14 car. Okay. We're going to a race. Drivers go draw your own qualifying positions. Great. It's the way of doing dirt racing. Okay. Unless I was to send somebody, hey, go draw for me and sign me up. Which I've done that.
You done that? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. And then, you know, my streak one time at Talladega Short Track, I drew, when I go draw, I would draw no lower than a 24.
Okay.
That would put me starting really, really deep in Heat 1 or mid-pack Heat 2 or front of Heat 3. Okay. I go send somebody like my wife up there. Okay. That was quick. It didn't take long. Yeah, the line was short. Signed up. What'd you draw me? 1. Okay, thanks.
You're up.
But Steve's in the 14 car. I'm driving the 11. Okay. Steve goes and draws. What happens to, we're going to send out, Steve draws a 3. Car 14 goes out 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
I draw a 29. Car 11 goes out 29th. Okay. Instead of, he's 5th in Group A and I'm 9th in Group B, whatever this garbage is.
Yeah.
All right. See, where this came from is last week at Iowa, qualifying, the racetrack picked up over a half of a second from one group to the other. Everybody in Group A from like 12th, from Group A, Group B, from like 12th up was faster than the fastest man in Group A.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So They're like, oh, well, Chase Briscoe was so slow, but he's getting to start 6th or 10th or whatever. So?
Yeah. You line them up by the speeds that are on the track. We all know, and every one of those drivers and any race fan worth their salt knows track conditions will change even during the course of qualifying session.
This is getting back to that gimmick that used to be. I see the time there.
Yeah,
this gimmick that used to be group qualifying at super speedways that nearly knocked Jeff Gordon out of a race at Talladega one time in 2013.
Just making it ridiculously overly complicated.
If I was to go out and let's say at Talladega, if I was to go out and run a 48.73, and that's quick enough to put me in 11th. Steve goes out and runs a 48.20, which half a second Talladega, I need to load it on the truck if he's a half a second quicker than me at Talladega. If he goes out and run a 48.20 and I run a 48.73, I should not be starting 11th and he should not be starting 30th just because he run a 48.20 and it put him 15th in Group A, and I run a 48.73 and I'm 3rd in Group B.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen.
Or let's go even worse.
He runs a 48.20. He's on the pole.
Yeah. Let's go even worse in this situation. Let's say that you're in Group A in qualifying. I'm in Group B. We both make the second round.
Yeah.
Neither one of us is quite good enough to make the front row. So that means we're subject to this rule.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm in Group B, which means I'm going to be a different lane than you because you're Group A. Right?
Yeah.
So the inside-outside thing is there. What if you happen to out-qualify me, but because I'm in one group, I end up getting the inside row, which may be the preferred lane? What? Why? If he out-qualify, if he gets a better speed than I do, he should start in front of me. Period.
Simply put, if like I said, if he runs a 48.20, more than likely he's on the pole at Talladega. But if I run a 73 and it puts me 5th, and he runs a 20 and it puts him 10th, what sense does that make?
Makes none at all.
None.
We're fixing, again, NASCAR. You're fixing stuff that's not broken.
Thank you.
Stop it. Flip and stop it. Okay? Every once in a while, you'll get something that'll raise an eyebrow, but 90% plus of the time, the system you had works.
Well, and like I said last night, it's now called the 1090 rule.
Yeah. We'll continue talking about stuff like this after this.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
If you
right. So now that NASCAR is totally confused how to do qualifying, we will let you know that qualifying for Formula One is going to begin here, you said, in about 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
All right. Other racing this weekend, NHRA going to get in the finals of the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals. We'll let you know what that is during NHRA News. It's Virginia Motorsports Park up near Richmond, airs on Fox Sports 1. It'll start Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. And the final race of this weekend will be out west when IndyCar gets in the Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. 11 turns over 2.23 miles before, of course, the famed corkscrew turn. The air is going to race, the air is going to race. How about the race is going to air? Try that too. It's going to air on USA and IRN Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time. But again, this is West Coast. I just gave you East Coast starting times. Craftsman Truck Series Formula E, amongst the series that we cover, are the only ones that are off. All right. During IndyCar news, we're going to have an Aero McLaren segment. During F1 news, we're going to have an Alpine segment. So in the Cup Series, it would make sense that we'll concentrate on one team, and that team is Stewart-Haas Racing.
Sure. Tee them up.
A whole lot. And not just here on this show, but a whole lot's been made about really the pending dissolution of the Stewart-Haas Racing team at the end of the year. And initial reports had us thinking the team's going away. Period. End of sentence. They're selling off all 4 charters. They're going to sell off all of their assets. They're going to sell off the building or rent out the building, maybe to Front Row Motorsports. We don't know. Well, not quite.
Not so fast, according to Gene Haas.
Seems that really this is more Tony Stewart's exit from NASCAR. Gene Haas has said he's going to kind of go back to where he was before Smoke came on as a partner. Reports came out on Thursday. The team is planning to sell 3 of their 4 Cup charters. They'll keep 1 and operate in 2025 as a single-car Cup Series organization while also keeping both Xfinity Series entries, so there'll be a 2-car team there. And the name will change. Obviously, Tony Stewart no longer being there doesn't make any sense to keep the Stewart name on it, so it'll become the Haas Factory Team. Kind of questioned that one, but I'm not Gene Haas, so, hey, there you go. Gene Haas's statement when this news came out reads, quote, "My commitment to motorsports hasn't changed, just the scope of my involvement. Operating a 4-car Cup Series team has become too arduous, but at the same time, I still need a platform to promote Haas Automation and to grow HaasTooling.com. Maintaining my presence in Cup allows Haas Automation to compete at NASCAR's highest level, which is important to our customers and our distributors. The Xfinity Series program provides a full weekend experience for our guests, and it delivers added depth and scale to our overall operation." All right, let's see if we can't kind of peel this one back just a little bit. So what initially we were kind of led to believe was that Tony Stewart is just too busy dealing with other racing entities, be it Eldora and the track that he owns, or be it his Tony Stewart Racing dirt car operation or his Tony Stewart Racing drag team, which, let's face it, he's driving for the Top Fuel side of that, so he's heavily involved there. And he just didn't have enough time to put the effort that he felt like it really deserved into continuing the Cup Series organization.
Sure.
Gene Haas said nothing effectively in that press conference.
Yeah, he was awfully quiet.
And it seemed to us that, at least on the surface, Gene Haas was like, yeah, I can pretty much see my out here, and I can now put all of my efforts towards my Haas F1 Formula One team. Seemed to make sense, right?
Yeah.
We're in a day and age where multi-car teams are everything.
They are.
I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to Gene Haas, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect to JTG Dougherty, who are plugging along seemingly okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like JTG Dougherty is one of those teams that's competing for a championship every year.
True. I mean, if they get up there and they will slip up, and I use that term loosely, they'll slip up and snatch away a top 5. See Iowa last week.
Sure.
Or they'll slip up and win a race.
Yeah,
Daytona.
they may even claim a win.
Claim a win, get backdoor their way into the playoffs, which there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got the same opportunity to do so.
Sure. And that's what makes Daytona and Talladega and now even Atlanta kind of a little bit more fun, because you have the opportunity under those rules to have an underdog team jump up and claim a win.
True. So with their deal being up with Ford, the deal being up with Ford from the whole team side, but the Xfinity program essentially is Ford in Xfinity.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when this whole announcement came down.
So
if it hadn't been, if it weren't for this, your flag bearer for Ford and Xfinity is Ryan Sieg.
Yeah, and it's not taken away from Ryan Sieg and Rod Sieg and that whole team that they've built, because they went from a little fledgling one-car operation and now they're essentially 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Viking Motorsport is affiliated with,
which is respectable.
Sure,
very respectable. And Ryan Sieg on any given week, see Texas, or any given super speedway race, or any given short track race, say that much, is a legitimate threat to slip up and go, I'll take that check and trophy and go home, back to Georgia.
But unlike Cole Custer, who was hoisting the Xfinity Series championship trophy at the end of last year, do you honestly believe Ryan Sieg is a championship contender? I mean, making the playoffs is one thing. Being a legitimate championship contender is something else.
I'm going to say no right now. That doesn't mean that he can't be, but not right now.
Okay.
So I could see them staying with Ford
and
add it redone.
That does appear, at least on the surface, because while Gene Haas did say what we quoted, a lot of other details kind of lacking right now. What number, for example, he's going to run in the Cup Series? Does he keep one of the 4 existing SHR numbers? Does he go back to what he had before Tony Stewart came in? He didn't say. Okay, so that wasn't announced. He did state he was going to stick with Ford. Now, as you noted, that deal runs out at the end of this year. Any amount of Ford factory support technically goes away at the end of this year, unless he signs a new deal.
I don't think he would have said that and opened that box up saying that he's going to stay with Ford if he hasn't already gotten something redone.
And you may be right there, but he hasn't announced it.
It's not officially announced from the Cup side. I did see something where he saw the Xfinity side. He said he was staying with Ford because they're basically the Ford.
They're the flag bearer.
Manufacturer team.
They're the standard bearer.
And they're the one that helps build Ford cars for Sieg and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense. So we'll find out. But again, we'll wait on the official announcement as opposed to going out there like some people. And saying, it's definite. We don't know that.
I could see him making his Cup car 00 like it's been, because essentially 00 has been his flagship number.
Sure. It's why it's there in the Xfinity Series.
Xfinity was 00, Trucks was 00, but Cup was 66 and 70. I don't see him going to 70 or 66.
No.
I could see it being 00 because now I was thinking and going, all right, all this, I've got Cole Custer and had Cole Custer pegged to go to front row. Whether it be in the 36 or 34. But now that this door's opened up and Joe Custer staying as the team president.
Yep. He noted that Joe Custer will remain and become the team president of the Haas factory team. The operation will remain in the same Kannapolis, North Carolina building they currently use as Stewart Haas Racing, one would presume, because we did find this out. You got the 4 Cup Series operations that are in the actual SHR building next door. When we were up there, at least, I don't know whether this has changed or not, but it had the Haas F1 logo up on the building.
It hasn't changed.
Okay, so the logo is still up on the building, but we were led to believe that really there's not a whole lot of F1 stuff going out of there, that the Xfinity Series team is actually operating out of that building.
Yeah, that's more. The Xfinity team has got one corner of the building, and it's the part of the administration building for the F1 team.
Okay, so now you and I have seen the outside of the building. We haven't seen the inside of the SHR building, but it only makes sense that you just go ahead and move the Xfinity operation into the operation where you're now going to drop from 4 to 1 Cup Series team.
Yep.
And then you could lease out or sell the other building, which is sizable. And if Front Row Motorsports, which is going from 2 to 3 cars, needs a bigger building, there you go. They could easily move into that because, again, there was a whole lot of the rumor that Front Row was going to take over the old SHR shop. Now they could still do that.
They still could, yeah.
And Haas would still have his shop.
Yeah, so now the other big red question mark in the whole situation is,
who do you go with?
Hey, who are you aligning with?
So yeah, that's true too.
Because now that essentially Front Row has taken your Tier 1A spot in Ford, do you say, hey Bob, you want to link up, partner up?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them going to Penske.
No, probably not. I'm not sure Roger would do it anyway.
I'm not sure he would either. Does he go to Brad and Jack and say at RFK and go, do we want to link up? All right, you've got 6 and 17, and essentially a 15 and 51 of Rick Ware is partnered up with them.
Yeah, they're already
on that situation.
So Rick Ware's not an option. We know that.
Yeah, not an option. So, and this year at any given point, save face for the last couple of races, to where you've had Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney take 2 of the wins. On any given week beforehand, the most consistent running Ford team has been Front Row.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So you got 3 different scenarios here. If you're Gene Haas and Joe Custer, who do we align with if we stay with Ford? But he'll end up staying with Ford because you're not going to sit there and tease you're going to stay with Ford and Xfinity and be Toyota or Chevrolet and Cup.
No.
That ain't going to happen.
No. You want to talk about getting no factory support from either one at that point in time.
No
so,
kidding.
Yeah, whoever you announce. Plus, we've also got a math problem here. Currently, Stewart-Haas Racing has 6 drivers. Other than one thing that we do note, you're dropping from 6 cars to 3. That means when the music stops at the end of the season, there's people left standing. We'll get into that when we come back as we roll on here on CRN.
Championship Racing Network.
All right, so we're talking about this situation where Stewart-Haas Racing will become the Haas factory team next year. They're going to sell 3 of their charters, one of which has already been sold. We know that. It's confirmed to go to Front Row.
Right.
The other 2 right now, I think we're waiting just because of this whole flap between NASCAR and the teams. Front Row might have jumped. I think the other 2, which presumably the leaders in the clubhouse are 2311 and Trackhouse. But yeah, I say presumably mainly because of the fact that I can't discount the possibility of some team that currently has 2 charters or even 3 charters swooping in at the last moment.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. And I revert back to something I said last week, I think. For the longest time, I sit and I have said, and let me put this disclaimer out to start with, in a positive light, in a positive sense, the most dangerous car owner in Cup right now is Justin Marks.
Sure.
He's smart. He's calculated. He's got the funds to do what he wants to do when he snaps his fingers and gets ready to do so. And he's business savvy.
But now we have to look at Gene Haas and understand that Gene Haas has some really, really nice cards to play with at this poker table.
He's setting one car away from a royal flush.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
And I added last week, the more and more I listen to the way he talks about things and the way he says things dealing with this charter situation, I'm putting Denny Hamlin right there at the table beside Justin Marks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of people don't like him, but Denny Hamlin, you listen to what he says on his Access Detrimental podcast, he is super, super business smart.
Yeah.
And look at who he's got as a business partner.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you he's learning everything of that from him.
Yeah. I guarantee it. And you want to talk about somebody who has a really good amount of money available to him? Ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce you to a guy by the name of Michael Jordan.
Jump man.
The other side of this is that Gene, presumably at least, will have his pick of the litter of the current SHR drivers to choose from, maybe, save one. So we'll get back to the whole what Gene Haas might be able to do and let you know why the one. Christopher Bell. He got to talking to media yesterday, and in one answer, he made up a little bit of a slip when he got to talking about who might be the leader amongst the drivers over at Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, with Truex set to go, Truex is at least the senior man, and younger drivers will tend to look at somebody who's got the experience, like a Martin Truex Jr., when they're trying to find out how things go.
Sure.
Well, he's leaving the building. He's exiting stage right. Denny Hamlin is at least as involved at 2311 as he is at Joe Gibbs Racing, so it's not like he's playing mentor all the time over there at JGR. So when asked about kind of the leadership situation over at Joe Gibbs Racing, Christopher Bell kind of started off in a rambling way with the expected side of things. Quote, "It is a good question, and honestly, I don't really know that there's any leadership from the driver's standpoint. Certainly, from when we get into our competition meetings, the more guys with experience will, I guess, take the role of steering the ship as far as what we need in the race cars and stuff like that." And then he continues on, goes, I have definitely grown in confidence telling the team what we need inside our cars with experience, but week in, week out, a different guy might lead the discussion. Every time we go into our Monday meetings, it could be whoever has a good race that week. Plenty of times it's been Ty. Plenty of times it's been Martin or me or Denny. I don't think there was really a leadership role in that aspect. And whenever Chase comes into the car, and then there was this pause, and he was doing a handheld mic, so he kind of puts the microphone a little bit away and has this kind of knowing, sheepish grin on his face, looks over to the side, then comes back and tries to fix it by going, whenever, I don't even know what to say now. Now, here's the thing. There are 2 Chases in the Cup Series right now, and we know one of them ain't going nowhere, and that's Chase Elliott. He's at Hendrick Motorsports, and he's got a long-term deal. At the end of the year, Chase Briscoe, 14-car driver, he's wide open. Now, you and I did have a question because at one point in time, he was signed to Ford Performance.
Yep.
But if we start connecting dots here from what Christopher Bell's saying, it certainly looks like Chase Briscoe is making his way towards the 19 car into Toyota, which is, I'll put the fan on hat for here for a moment. As a Tony Stewart fan, it hurts me to say this, but that's a step up. To go into a Joe Gibbs Racing number 19 car from where he is right now and what the 14 car is right now, that's a step up.
It is, but it tells me that whenever it's seen from Joe Gibbs, social media, post, release, press release, whatever, when you see it happen and they announce Briscoe's there, that tells me there's no such thing as being signed to X manufacturer as a development driver anymore.
Right.
Because you see Ford went in and swiped Haley Deegan. You seen Ford went in and swiped Riley Herbst.
Yep.
You seen, let's see who else. You seen that Chevrolet went in and swiped Zane Smith from Ford. Okay. Let's see who's another good example. Can't think of one right offhand. Another one right offhand. But it tells me, because it was said real quick, Chase Briscoe's Ford's top guy.
Apparently not anymore.
Not if David Wilson at Toyota and TRD says, hey, here you go, Chase.
Yeah. I mean, you start dangling the 19 car in front of any legitimate Cup Series driver, and they've got to look at it. And if Chase Briscoe does, that you don't have a definitive ride for 2025, and you're given a chance to go to the 19 car, you leap, jump, hop up and down, and do everything you can to get over there and sign that contract.
Just to give you an example, that's kind of scenario. I'm not a Ford guy. I'm not one. But if I'm driving, say I'm driving the 45 car. Let's say I'm driving the 45 car for Denny and Michael. My contract's up at the end of the year, but I'm under the Toyota banner. I'm like, where am I going to go? They signed Denny and Michael's come in and signed Steve to drive the 45 car in 2025 and beyond.
So now you're out of the car.
So I know I'm out of the car, but you're Toyota. Where am I going? Am I going to a third Legacy Motor Club car? That's really the only other option I've got.
And Legacy hasn't said anything about buying a charter.
Legacy's been zip-lipped on a charter situation. Okay? Phone rings, look up. Roger Penske. His 2 cars opened up. His 2 car is open. Hey, I want to sign you. I'm interested in signing you. I want to talk to you about driving my car next year. Consider me driving a Mustang Dark Horse, because if that car's open and that's my only choice, I'm going to go drive that Ford.
Yeah, because here's the thing. You're a driver, okay? And very few drivers, some drivers have had the opportunity to be able to look at and tell the manufacturer, I'm going to be with you or I'm never going to be with you. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is one of those guys.
True.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is a Chevrolet guy, has been all of his life, and if he ever gets into the Cup Series, I can guarantee you it'll be with a bow tie on the front of that car.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
So that's why all these rumors that are out there that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to team up with Gene Haas, we can throw them out at least for the short term. Long term, don't know. Short term, toss them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But as a driver, if you're in a situation where you're out of a ride.
True.
And it's not because you went to 2311 and say, I think I've got a better ride over here with Roger Penske. They said, hey, we're signing this guy and you're out of a ride. You're pretty much looking for a ride. And at that point in time, you're going to go with the bird in the hand versus the 2 in the bush over there that you can't guarantee that you're going to catch.
Exactly.
So who stays at Haas? Well, we noted this. Joe Custer is going to remain as the president. So seemingly Cole Custer is safe. As to exactly his role, we don't know. Could be Cup. He said it would be a dream, obviously, for him to get back into the Cup Series. It would be. I understand that. But with his dad in the front office, he seems safe. So let's presume Cole Custer's there. Now, out of the 3 seats that are at the new yet to almost to become Haas factory team, we've gone from 6 down to 2 cars that are open.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're also dealing with 5 drivers. 5 drivers for 2 seats. Well, okay, let's match up Cole Custer with one of those. For 4 drivers for 2 seats, math don't work. 3 current Cup drivers. Chase Briscoe, gone. Noah Gragson's there. Josh Berry's there. Ryan Preece is there. 1 other Xfinity Series guy in Riley Erbst. But again, 4 cars, down to 2. But you still got all those drivers. Math don't work. Somebody's gone. And I hate to say this. Ryan Preece is the first one that's left off to the side in this. If you're starting to whittle them down and go, which ones are my choices? You start at the bottom and go, yeah, probably not. Based upon the performance that we have seen, Ryan Preece is the first one left standing. When the music ends, he's not got a seat.
The one single word factored into this whole situation is Custer.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one that you can, like you said, essentially deem safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be one car taken. Which car?
We don't know.
Question mark.
Could be the one. It could be the one single Cup Series entry, or he could choose to remain where he knows right now he can win.
Exactly.
Not just races, but titles.
Exactly. If it's Joe and Gene, me and I'm sitting at a table looking at my options and ranking them top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
My next one, and the reason I say this is because this package deal,
I know right where you're going.
They're on the upswing right now.
Yeah.
And essentially on the Cup Series side, they're toting the flag. That's Josh Berry and Rodney Childers.
Yeah. The current 4 team right now, whatever number that may become next year, if I'm going to look at keeping a group, yeah. I agree with that. And I hesitate to say that because of what we saw there for a while was Noah Gragson looked like he was really becoming the leader, so to speak, amongst all the drivers for SHR.
And then he tapered off a little bit. Now he's
Josh Berry's
inching his way
up.
back up.
Yeah. So it is, for me, it's between those two. You know, I mean, yeah, I like Chase Briscoe. I think Chase Briscoe's a good kid. I think Chase Briscoe will do fantastically in the 19 car. Okay, so again, we have to put him off to the side. I like Riley Erbst. Riley Erbst probably is looking for a Cup Series ride. I mean, let's just be real.
Yeah, and
he's probably looking for a Cup Series ride.
Apparently, some of these little YouTuber broadcasters that I can't stand. Apparently, some of them's got him pegged on a Cup Series ride. Apparently, and I use that term largely.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and I never thought I'd be saying this. Okay, there's 2 aspects to this that make Riley Erbst a very, very attractive kid to bring into the Cup Series. He's got himself a built-in sponsor. He and Monster Energy are locked in. So he brings you a paycheck. He brings you a built-in sponsor. And with the way that I'm looking at one team in particular and what they've built so far this year, after going out and surprising the living daylights out of us by signing Justin Haley last year, if Rick Ware's serious about being a 2-car team, I might take one really long look at Riley Erbst.
Yeah, I could get behind that.
I might take one real long look at Riley if I'm Rick.
Yeah, because there's no denying that Justin Haley's picked that program up.
Absolutely, and Justin Haley has said he would like to stay with Rick Ware long term. When was the last time you heard any driver say that? Never. Bingo.
Never.
That means he knows something, and he feels like they're building something too.
Well, maybe because, and I said this last year when he got signed to him and figured out this partnership with Rick Ware and RFK's in line, he's pretty much the driver in waiting for the 6 car.
Sure. So that might be an attractive move for somebody like Riley Erbst. And that leaves you in a pretty nice position as Gene Haas. You got Josh Berry, you got Noah Gragson there. Either one of them I would be more than happy to keep. I don't know as you're necessarily going to be able to convince... You could probably convince Cole to stick around in the Xfinity Series at least one more year. Probably. But then you got to sit there and try and figure out if you can convince Josh Berry and Noah Gragson that one of them needs to stay in the Xfinity Series. I'm not certain you can do that.
Noah Gragson has proved and proven this year that he's very, very cup able
and capable. Yeah. So
cuppable. Let's call it that.
Yeah. Okay, I like it.
Cup and able. Cuppable.
And Josh Berry's proving it.
He has.
Especially with that partnership with Rodney Childers, and Rodney and Josh have both said they would love to go as an ensemble, as a group.
And you got and it's been laid on the table, and it's there. The car's gonna be fully funded next year.
Yeah.
I mean, so why you got to worry about? Oh, I got to bring X amount of money. Oh, hey, Marcus Lemonis, what can we do to keep overstock on the car all year long?
It's not a problem.
Because overstock is essentially come in and partnered up with him for the rest of the year, because you see a rotating door of overstock on either the 410 or the 41.
And if Marcus decides that he doesn't want to cover the entire year on overstock, guess what? This is the rolling billboard that Gene Haas wants in the first place, because he said he wants to make sure that he continues to be able to publicize Haas Automation and Haas Tooling.
And he's got enough. If he can put 2 F1 cars on the track, he can have no problem doing that whatsoever.
Bingo. It's going to be interesting to watch this process.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what we just said before. Gene Haas's situation just went to where he's got a seat at the table, and he's got a really good poker hand. He's got a really powerful poker hand. It's going to be fun to watch this one.
You do this, you better have a solid director of competition in place, because essentially Greg Zipadelli surprised me.
Yep. We'll see.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
At the Tractor Place, we hold dirt in the highest regard.
on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are. One more note out of the Cup Series here, and we made a lot of this. That kind of patchwork repave done at Iowa Speedway last week, right here on the show. We talked about it. But after the weekend, which most people actually deemed a success, does anything need to be done? Well, NASCAR says they're currently evaluating all the information from over the weekend, said that they're going to take some time to determine what, if anything, needs to be done about Iowa. Elton Sawyer, your favorite guy, Matt, told the host on the SiriusXM satellite radio NASCAR channel in his weekly Tuesday visit, quote, "We had great racing, had side-by-side racing, had 2 lanes, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of dialogue around if we go back to, do you repave the whole facility or do you just repave that 3rd lane up by the wall?" A lot of questions to answer on that, but I think the number one thing is we had really, really good racing this past weekend. No matter what we do, we need to make sure we're headed in a positive direction to make the racing better or leave it as it is and have another data point after next year. Of course, we have yet to know whether or not it's even on the schedule for next year or beyond, because unlike F1, IndyCar, and Formula E, we don't have a schedule for NASCAR, any of the top 3 series yet. Hello, NASCAR, where's the schedule?
Elton. Brother Elton, do us a favor and just shut up. SiriusXM, somebody stop bringing him on, because I don't even know how to describe it, what he says. He's rhetorical.
Yeah, there's almost doublespeak there. Well, we could repave it. We may not repave it.
We could repave it. We may not repave it. Because every post-race interview I saw from drivers last week, widen the 3rd groove out in the corners. The straightaways are fine. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, the bit of bumpiness that has been kind of developing ever since it was first laid down.
It's in the corners.
Yeah. So they've smoothed that out. Any bumpiness that's on the straightaway just gives it character.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't drive through a bump in a straight line, get out of the seat. I'll drive it.
There you go. Speaking of tracks, looking at some facts regarding New Hampshire Motor Speedway, one specifically. That track ain't got no lights. Notice that? Track got no lights. Why would we mention this? Well, here's the thing. There's rain in the forecast for Sunday. So should things get delayed, we got 2 possibilities. One, obviously, it could get delayed to Monday. Second, and this comes really kind of based out of the race from Chicago last year. Speaking of rewriting rules, NASCAR's rewritten the rule about weather causing a race to run into the dark at a track, like Chicago. Also has no lights, obviously. Chicago last year, they ended up shortening the race from 175 laps due to heavy rain and the time that it took to get to 75 laps, and knowing that they could not postpone to Monday. Again, it's a city course. You can't screw up a city like Chicago. Well, much worse than it already is. So the new rule is NASCAR had a previous set rule that let officials be able to get on the radio and state, we're going to fly the white flag in 10 laps, for example. But that tended to get both crew chiefs and the drivers upset because they didn't feel like there was enough time or enough fair warning, if you will, for them to realize, okay, now we know what we need to do, right? So the new rule states NASCAR can come over the radio of all teams and let them know that a white flag will fly at a particular time. Now, here's the deal. Sunset in Loudon, New Hampshire for tomorrow evening is 8:30 p.m. Eastern. They could come over, and I'll use America's crew chief Larry McReynolds' way of looking at this. They could come over and say, at any point in time during the race, see the opening here that Matt's about to tee off on? They can come over at any point in time during the race and say, we're going to drop the white flag at 8:15. They could state that at 7:30. They could state it at 6:30. They could state it at 8 o'clock. See the problem? They really haven't said how they're going to get to the point where the drivers and the crew chiefs aren't left scrambling going, that gives us no time to adjust to the shorter run. Where am I wrong?
Well, I don't even know where to start with this, because in a way, that is really, you're saying the same thing, but in a different manner.
Yeah.
You're saying the same thing.
Exactly.
Oh, white flag. Oh, we're shortening the race. So you go like, well, hey, Peanut, let's you know, just throwing peanut for a different name out there, just whoever. We're gonna throw the. It's lap 95. We're gonna throw the checkered flag at lap 105.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's 8:15, we're gonna throw the checkered flag at 8:25. Same difference.
Yeah, makes no difference whatsoever.
It's no sense.
You're clarifying rules that don't need to be clarified.
Let me guess. That's rule 19.1.3.7.9.
Subsections
subsection
A, B, and E.
D and E.
It doesn't matter.
1090. If anybody want to ask me what my 1090 rule is, just send me a message. I'll gladly clarify it for you. I don't want to clarify it over the air. This is crazy.
Yeah, it is. One more note on this. You might ask why New Hampshire doesn't have lights. It's a relatively small facility. It wouldn't cost terrifically a whole lot of money to install lights there, right?
In the middle of nowhere.
Well, when built by Bob Baer near the town of Loudon, New Hampshire, he cut a deal with the city's leaders. In order to be able to build the track and open it up as it did in 1990, he agreed with the town not to install lights to avoid running races at night. Speedway Motorsports Incorporated bought the track in 2007, apparently kept the agreement with the town, so therefore, no lights in New Hampshire.
Peeps. There's no reason you can't put lights up in New Hampshire. Here's why. My 2 size 10.5 feet have been on the grounds of New Hampshire. That racetrack sits in the middle of a pine grove of trees. 10 miles north of Loudon. There's not a house within 5 miles of that racetrack. Why can you not put lights up at the racetrack?
Because, all right, let me give you an example from the state next door.
Sure.
Next door is Vermont. New Hampshire and Vermont, I've been through both of them. Beautiful states to drive.
Fantastic states to drive through.
Okay. You go up there in the fall when the leaves are at the height of their changing. It is just breathtaking.
Absolutely.
Okay. Got a friend of mine whose mother happens to live in Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
Backyard, nice backyard, no houses back there, goes down to a valley, up into a mountain, very scenic place, and the state of Vermont knows that it's a scenic view. So my friend's mother has what they call a view tax. Because she has a nice scenic view out her back door, she's taxed on it. This is how weird towns in New England can get when it comes to things like this.
Beg your pardon?
To them, it doesn't matter whether or not there is no house near the track whatsoever. If the town officials close to the town that you build the track at state, we don't want night racing, you can't put lights up there. You can only do daytime racing, and therefore you can't install lights. If you want the license to operate, there you go.
That's
there is such a thing as a scenic view tax in the state of Vermont.
As a good old saying goes, beg your pardon?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to New England, and welcome to why I don't live in the area that I was born in.
Oh, dear baby Jesus, Lord bless it.
In the wake of the news, Martin Truex Jr. set to retire from full-time racing at the end of 2024. He's got no lack of offers coming in. First, his current boss, Joe Gibbs, said he'd be willing to put him in any number of Xfinity Series races next year. He's got the star car. Yeah, he could do it. One of his Joe Gibbs Racing teammates, meanwhile, Denny Hamlin, has said something that Gibbs might not and probably doesn't even have the power to do. Put him into another Cup Series racer. Hamlin said Truex is more than welcome over at 2311. Quote, I told him I will have his Daytona 500 car ready immediately. Tell me the word, 100%. I would 100% do that. Anytime Martin gets bored, wants to run a Cup Series race, we'd have a seat for him for sure.
Alrighty.
Not surprised.
Nope.
We noted last week MBM Motorsports had to pull out of a race due to lack of sponsorship. Well, they still plan to race throughout the rest of the year. They're set to run in the Chicago Street Course, and they've got two things. Number one, they got a driver. This is a good thing. You need a driver for your car. It is Josh Bilicki. He'll drive for them in Chicago. And they got a sponsor. They need a sponsor. Pure Kick. It's a zero sugar energy booster drink mix, and they're also, Pure Kick, going to give some room in the car for the brand for the American Childhood Cancer Organization. This is a nonprofit agency that Pure Kick's parent company, GelCert, has been supporting since back in 2007. Beyond Chicago, MBM hasn't announced this, but at least they're going to be at Chicago and have a chance, and they've got sponsorship and pretty cool partnership there with a nonprofit agency.
You've got a driver that can get it done on a road course. For the love of human mankind, get a car that will get him to the front.
Yeah. Whoever it is that you're working with over there, make sure that you're really paying attention in the technical alliance side of things.
Mighty.
And congratulations to Daniel Suarez. On Tuesday of this past week, took the oath and is now officially an American citizen. He was one of 48 people from 28 different countries around the world sworn in as a naturalized citizen of the United States. And after sworn in, he was presented with his citizenship certificate by no less than NASCAR President Steve Phelps, who actually surprised Suarez by being in attendance. Suarez came to the U.S. a dozen years ago to advance his racing career from NASCAR Mexico to the top levels of NASCAR. Stated at the time he did not renounce his citizenship of his home country, so he's actually a dual citizen of Mexico and the United States. But that's the way you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Good.
I got no problem with that.
No, I have no problem with it either. Good for him.
Yep. Congratulations.
Congrats on getting that done.
Welcome
but
in.
I have one major problem with this entire thing.
Okay.
Was it absolutely necessary for nearly the entire freaking press corps of NASCAR to be there just to take a picture of it? No.
One picture would have sufficed.
No.
Like the one that we showed on CRN Live on YouTube.
One picture.
Mm-hmm.
Let the man have his time for getting something done the right way.
Let's turn our attention to open wheel. How about some IndyCar stuff? IndyCar teams tested at Nashville Superspeedway because they're preparing to visit the track the first time since 2008. Later this year when they wrap up 2024. The test also helped Firestone. Firestone admitted that their tires had some durability issues on at least one of the three cars participating. They didn't say which one, though. Arrow McLaren Racing reported Pato O'Ward did crash his car, so we could presume that it's him. But they didn't say what the cause of the crash was. The speed chart shows that the four drivers in all in the 190 mile per hour range around the 1.3 mile long track at the beginning. And as things started to progress, they started to work up towards 200 mile per hour laps around a 1.3 mile circuit. I'm thinking road trip for this. This is going to be fun. Drivers in attendance, Pato O'Ward, Colton Herta for Andretti Global, Ed Carpenter for his own Ed Carpenter Racing, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, and their driver, Graham Rahal. O'Ward talked about the track. He said, quote, "It reminds me a lot of Texas. The surface is a lot rougher because it's concrete, so it honestly feels like rubber against sandpaper. And it is bumpy, but honestly, it's actually pretty fun." Carpenter told Racer.com, quote, "It's impressive how well it is aged. It's pretty much just like it was when we left it from a surface standpoint. It really hasn't settled. The surface all looked exactly the same. The facility looked better than I guess I'd envisioned it. It's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge for everybody."
Hey, Ed. Cup Series and NASCAR's been there for the last few years, so naturally it's going to look better than when you left it from.
It's not just been abandoned.
And the last I checked,
Kentucky? Anyone?
Yeah. Chicago. Concrete doesn't settle like asphalt.
No, it does not.
So,
speaking of Arrow McLaren, here we go again.
we need some bed music of like Sands Through the Hourglass.
Yeah, you want to talk about being a soap opera.
Sheesh.
They have announced a driver change for the 6 car.
Yet again.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe I should clarify that. It's another driver change for the 6 car. Remember, this is the car that was supposed to begin the year with David Malukas. Malukas, of course, injured his hand in a preseason biking accident. So they pulled in Callum Ilott for the first couple of races of the year and for the Indy 500. But they also started to pull in Théo Pourchaire. And Théo Pourchaire ran a couple of races and it was stated that after the Indy 500, beginning in Detroit, the very weekend after, that Théo Pourchaire was going to be driving the car for the rest of the season. To quote Lee Corso, "Not so fast, my friend." Here's your third actual driver for the car. Remember, David Malukas never turned a lap in the 6 car in competition.
Nope.
So your third actual driver and your fourth driver assigned to the 6 car this year is Nolan Siegel, the guy that we were talking about and why we mentioned him being in the winning car in the LMP2 division at Le Mans. And this is a kid that Matt and I saw while we were at Barber Motorsports Park earlier this year because he came up into the booth and helped call one of the feeder series races before he jumped into his own Indy Next entry to race for HMD Motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
He has some experience. He ran for Dale Coyne Racing in IndyCar this year, ran for Dale Coyne Racing in the $1 Million Challenge at Thermal Club. He ran the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach as well. He attempted to qualify for the Indy 500, but the car didn't have the speed to get in. He ended up subbing in for Agustin Canapino at Road America for Juncos Hollinger Racing because we talked about that soap opera with Canapino's fans online being, well, I'm just going to call it flat out stupid. This time, Arrow McLaren says he will fill out the 2024 year, and they'll decide on the final 2025 lineup later this year. Well, here's the thing. We were told Teo Pourchaire was going to fill out that car for the rest of the year. So do we honestly believe 100% for certain that Nolan Siegel's the guy the remainder of this year?
Well, considering he's signed the contract through 2024 and beyond.
Got a services contract coming?
I've kind of read. I think he's going to be there.
All right, we'll see.
So, because he said 2025, he was going to be in the car too.
Yeah. As for Pourchaire, he seemed to be caught flat-footed about this whole change. Said, I will say this, at least publicly, he's taken it professionally. He said that he would like to continue racing in IndyCar. On top of that, he's put aside all of the racing because he felt that he was running IndyCar for the remainder of the year already. And no seats become immediately available, but according to what we're hearing, 3 teams, none of the 3 of which were identified, but 3 teams were reportedly talking to his agent about a potential future ride. And based upon what I saw, you could do a heck of a lot worse than this kid.
You could.
So
you very much could.
Could it be Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing? Well, probably not, because they're talking about bringing back a kid by the name of Yuri Vips. Vips raced the final 2 events of the 2023 season when he replaced Jack Harvey, but when it came to 2024, they decided to go into another direction and left him without a ride. But the team still likes him, and they're promising him a chance before the year ends because he's still on the payroll at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Vips is now 23. He's brought several. They brought him to several races this year. So he's been around the team. He's being paid by the team. He's just not getting into races with the team. Now, team co-owner Bobby Rahal says Vips will probably get into a part-time 4th RLL car sometime before the end of the year and at least 1 start, maybe more. In the meantime, while not full-time there, he has been running some Formula 2 races, so it's not like he's just sitting idle all the time.
Yeah.
Again, I got to look at the situation and go either fish or cut bait. I could use some other words, but I can't put them on the air. You got to fish or cut bait at some point in time. You're holding these drivers on a string and playing yo-yo with them. Sooner or later, you're either going to actually put them into a race or you're going to have to give them a chance to go drive someplace themselves.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Teo Pourchaire, back to that situation, I'm hot.
Sure.
Because if I laid aside everything else I was scheduled to drive to run the IndyCar, and then, we're going to put somebody else in the car.
Yeah, publicly in front of microphones and cameras, you're going to be saying all the professional things. Privately, when you're in your own room, you're throwing glasses up against the wall.
Yeah.
And Yuri Vips, I feel like I'm on a yo-yo. Dude, make a decision, would you?
Stay. and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back. We appreciate it. We're also, or I guess we're still, talking about Bobby Rahal here and Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing when it comes to IndyCar. We just got done talking about the fact that they've still got Yuri Vips on the payroll, and they want to get him into a couple of races, maybe before the end of the year, at least one. There's also a situation with Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard's contract runs out at the end of the year, but he's a driver Bobby Rahal also wants to have back in 2025, knows the driver's managers made contact with other teams to gauge their interest. So when he got talking to Racer.com, he tried to see if he couldn't smooth the path towards him coming back. Said, quote, "I'm not sure where else, aside from maybe Penske. That would be better." No. Talk about smacking yourself. We've been as fast as all those other guys at a lot of races, so I don't know why he'd look elsewhere, but you're always going to go out and just see what the market will bear. But our intent is to re-sign him, and as I've said before, I don't think he's looking to go anywhere necessarily. But we've got to continue to give him good race cars and do a good job for him. So we'll see what happens. Sooner rather than later, we'll know what the scenario looks like, but it's certainly our intent to keep him. He also, as mentioned, wants to keep Vips in the fold. As noted, he said that the team needs to determine, in this case, how many cars they're going to enter in 2025 and who gets to drive what. Right now, Lundgaard's in the 45. The 30 is being driven by Pietro Fittipaldi, the former reserve driver at Haas F1. Technically, he still is, but Ollie Behrman seems to be taking the lead role in that. The 15 car, Graham Rahal. This is kind of like the whole Gene Haas situation. The math don't work.
Nope.
3 cars, 4 drivers. I don't think Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing is talking about expanding out to 4 full-time cars. And considering the fact of what we already know, we're right now locked into 27 full-time cars next year, might go as high as 29. For only 27 guaranteed starting spots?
No.
I don't think he's going to a 4th full-time car.
Nope.
Meyer Shank Racing and Andretti Global are in talks. They both want to continue their technical alliance beyond 2024. Michael Shank talked to motorsport.com this week, said that contrary to some rumors, quote, "We're still working on it. Our contract is up, but we're working on a new one." The two began an alliance back in 2017 when Shank worked with Andretti on an Indy 500 alone ride. And then in November of 2019, the team stated their intent to run full-time and officially partnered with Andretti Technologies and Andretti Autosport, as they were known at that time. Now, of course, Andretti Global. MSR is kind of looking for more consistency, they state, however. The alliance has helped them garner a win, and it's a notable one, I will say. It is the 2021 Indy 500 with Elio Castroneves driving it. That's a nice win. But again, it's the only one that they've had since they went full-time beginning in 2020. This year, they've gone from Tom Blomqvist back to Castroneves, and now, you remember that guy, David Malukas, we were talking about?
I've heard of him.
Guess who's going to be driving that car for the remainder of the year? That's right, Malukas is going to be in that car, and he will have something to prove. Arrow McLaren. Andretti seems willing and able to continue the partnership as well. COO Rob Edwards of Andretti Global said, quote, "We're still negotiating, so it's not done, but I think it's been good for the both of us, and I think we have every intention of continuing." Andretti's official stance is that when it comes to a technical partnership, they are not interested in an alliance with any other team. If it's going to be a technical alliance with Andretti Global, it is only going to be with Meyer Shank Racing, so it's just a matter of working out the details. We'll find out.
Yep.
I don't know who gets this stuff in their head. Let's turn our attention to Formula One. This weekend in Spain has not started off for Mercedes the way that they would likely have imagined. Friday, they had to call local Spanish authorities because of an email. The email in question was sent to Mercedes officials and was also sent to that same list of F1 representatives who got the emails that regarded Red Bull team principal Christian Horner's sexual misconduct investigation.
Yippee.
This message to and about Mercedes accuses the team of deliberately sabotaging Lewis Hamilton's ride. Of course, Lewis Hamilton announced before the season he was set to move from Mercedes to Ferrari. The message goes on to say that this is a member of the Mercedes team. All of this information about the sabotaging comes from a member of the Mercedes team who claims to know that the team has actually tried physically or deliberately to put Hamilton in harm's way in some events. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff said that the team is not taking this as a joke. Very seriously, on the other hand, added, quote, "It is not from a member of the team. when we are getting these kinds of emails, and we're getting tons of them, it is upsetting, particularly when someone is talking about death and all these things. On this particular one, I've instructed to go full force with police inquiring it. They're researching the IP address. They're researching the phone number because online abuse in that way needs to stop. People can't hide behind their phones or their computers and abuse teams or drivers in a way like this. I don't know what some of the conspiracy theorists or lunatics think out there. Lewis was part of the team for 12 years. We have a friendship. We trust each other. We want to win and end this on a high and celebrate this relationship. If you don't believe all of that, then you can believe what you want to win the Constructors' Cup World Championship, and that is by making both cars win. To all of these mad people out there, see a shrink. I like those words, actually. I'm kind of with him. Hamilton said he hasn't even seen the emails. And I'll be honest with you, when it comes right down to it, I know that the long-term future of Mercedes is George Russell. Of that, we have no doubt. Lewis Hamilton made it perfectly clear. But he's right. You're in a situation where one car is not going to give you a Constructors' Cup title. And if you don't have a good enough car for Lewis Hamilton to be able to defend for George Russell, presuming George Russell's your new number one, or George Russell doesn't have a good enough car to defend for Lewis Hamilton, you ain't going to win a driver's title either.
No. And they are, right now, they are not even in the same zip code.
No.
As some of them. I mean, when you're sitting fifth in the Constructors' Cup.
And you need binoculars to see fourth?
Yeah, and you need a telescope to see second and third.
Yeah, and first, forget it. You need the Hubble.
Yeah, that ain't happening. So, there's legitimate questions there.
Mm-hmm.
But do those questions... They're legitimate questions, but are they valid questions?
Yeah. We'll see. This whole email situation, we've talked about it. We talked about it last week. I'm liking the fact that we're starting to see pushback against keyboard warriors. And it needs to happen more.
It needs to happen. Keyboard warriors? YouTube influencers?
Yeah. All you people who think you know something and you're going to go out there and try and make your name out there without having any basis for fact.
Media members?
You need to go away.
Yeah, you do.
We'll start to check in on Formula One here because I guess they've started qualifying.
They are in Q2.
Okay. So who's out after Q1? I guess we'll go ahead and talk about that before we begin the Alpine segment of the show, which will take a little bit.
Your Q1, out in Q1 is Magnussen, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Albon, and Sargent. That's 16-20.
Magnussen is quickly working his way out of a Haas F1 seat.
I think he's already gone.
Yeah. All right. So here's the Alpine segment of the show because it appears things at the main office are going through major changes. But then they turn around and they decide to add someone to the team's front office that, well, it raised even more eyebrows. That's where we'll start. Because they've hired a guy by the name of Flavio Briatore. Now, that might not mean much to you if you're new to Formula One, but if you've been a fan of Formula One for quite some time, you know this is a notable guy. Briatore is now 74. So it's notable that they hired a 74-year-old to be in the front office. Now, Briatore's got himself a good resume, made good marks in Formula One. He was the team boss at the Benetton team back in the 1990s, where he hired a kid by the name of, Michael Schumacher. You might have heard of him. Before stepping away for a time. Then Renault bought Benetton out. It became the Renault Works team. They brought Briatore back to continue as the team principal. He led Fernando Alonso to not just one, but two F1 titles before he quit again. Now, why he quit, that's something else altogether. And that's your bad part. This is where the eyebrows and the kind of questioning about this.
Sure.
You remember us talking late last year and into this year about how Felipe Massa is suing because he feels like he was robbed of the 2008 F1 title?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out Briatore was right in the middle of this. Briatore was the boss when he told his young driver, Nelson Piquet Jr., to crash on purpose, triggering the safety car period that would ultimately result in Fernando Alonso winning that particular race in 2008, sticking Massa outside of the top 10 and therefore outside of the points. And at the end of the year, Lewis Hamilton won the 2008 championship by one single point. That move, once it was proven out, resulted in Formula One issuing a lifetime ban from the sport. Briatore wanted to clear his name, so he kept appealing the ruling, and finally the FIA overturned it in 2013. But he's been sitting on the sidelines until now. And he's technically got a third opportunity with the team that he has been in and out of over the course of time. Benetton turned into Renault now to Alpine. They need something this year. You're talking about Mercedes languishing. Good grief. Alpine wouldn't know how to get out of a wet paper bag if you gave them directions. They're sitting in the bottom of the standings 8. They've scored a grand total of 5 points on this year. So they need something. Briatore, we'll see if he's still got that magic in there. Of course, Alpine, as we noted, is also a sub-brand under the Renault moniker, but would you go away from your parent company as an engine provider?
You would think not.
You'd think not, but apparently Renault's talking about shutting down that particular aspect of their organization, meaning Alpine would need to get a new provider. There's no real danger of them not having a new engine supplier. F1 regulations actually have a safety net regarding existing teams to ensure they participate in the series, and it is a weird formula. Where have we heard formulas before? Oh, that's right, NASCAR. What was it somebody said earlier on CRN Live in the comments section that NASCAR is trying to become more like F1 all the time? You ready? We're about to give you a perfect example of that. In the rule book for Formula One, there is a formula that demands that all power unit suppliers be able and willing to supply power units on an as-needed basis. No, I'm not going to get into the details of this. I'm going to try and give you a 30,000-foot view of this. Try. In 2026, there are plans, without Renault included, to have 5 power unit suppliers. They are in alphabetical order: Audi, Ferrari, Honda, Mercedes, and Red Bull, or RB, which would be in that combination with Ford. So you can call it RB Ford. 5 suppliers to cover 10 teams, right? Formula states that suppliers must be able to cover, rounded up, to 3 cars. 3 teams, specifically, as many as 6 cars. So should Renault withdraw as a power unit supplier, Alpine has until May 15th to announce a new supplier, but they've got the safety net regarding this formula. It would begin with suppliers who are provided engines to the fewest teams. Now, Ferrari's got 2. They're providing to themselves and to Haas F1. So they're set aside. Mercedes has themselves and Williams. They'd be set aside. RB, Ford, would cover Red Bull and VCarb. They're set aside. So that leaves Audi and Honda providing power units to themselves and Aston Martin, respectively. Under this formula's rules, there is another rule that the new power unit supplier won't be held to the formula for the first couple of years.
Okay.
So Audi's out under the new formula rules. So Alpine would have to take the Honda engines because they're only supplying to Aston Martin. Again, all of this assumes that Renault is going to pull the plug on this. Are you confused yet? I reread that. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many times before we went on the air this morning. And I'm confused by it.
I don't even know. Lord have mercy.
In Formula One, you're looking at Andretti Global bringing in Cadillac, and you're saying no? I can't tell you how stupid you guys are. Formula One silly season seems a bit, well, stopped up, shall we say. Even fellow drivers are pointing their fingers at Carlos Sainz as the stopper, keeping things from being able to flow along here. Kevin Magnussen, the aforementioned driver from Haas F1, whose own seat isn't totally secure, actually said this upon meeting the media in Spain for this weekend's race. When talking about the whole thing and getting down to Carlos Sainz, he basically said this, quote, Carlos is the cork in the bottle. I think a lot of guys are waiting for him to make a move, and then eventually all the other pieces of the puzzle will fall. That's the truth of that. Magnussen also admitted that he doesn't know what's going to happen to himself, much less Sainz, when it comes to where or if they'll be racing in F1 in 2025. But Magnussen seemed to be pretty cool with it, said, quote, I've been in this situation many times before. I mean, heck, he was out the door at Haas F1 before being brought back after the whole dual rookie situation blew up in Haas F1's face.
Mm-hmm.
Sainz was asked about it in his media session. He seemed to, on one hand, not be worried about 2025 at this time, and on the other hand, kind of noting he wants to lock things down as soon as possible, said this, quote, "The latest news is that a decision will be taken very soon. I don't want to wait any longer. I think it's getting to a point where it's obviously taking space out of my head for quite a few weeks now and months. It's time to make a decision about it, and it will be taken soon. Hopefully, we will have things to talk about soon." Yeah, for your particular case, I certainly hope so. And the other reason I say that is because, well, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of talking about it. Let's get into this. Let's figure it out, man.
Yeah.
One more note in Formula One, then we'll take a break. Apple Original Films and F1 have announced the release date of their anticipated, yet still untitled, Brad Pitt movie about the series. They say it'll drop June 25th of 2025.
Good idea. Let's just call it F1.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be internationally, by the way. For those in North America, we got to wait 2 more days. We got to wait until the 27th. Why? I don't know. This is Apple. It's F1. Whatever. This is, again, the movie produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Chad Homan, who collaborated on Top Gun Maverick. Sir Lewis Hamilton's Don Apollo Films is also involved in the production of it. It's directed by Top Gun Maverick director Joseph Kosinski. This has Pitt starring as a former F1 driver being called back to race in the series by the fictional APGXP team to mentor a young hotshoe who is being played by Damson Idris. Filming does continue. It will be front and center at the upcoming British Grand Prix, for example, and other filming will continue to take place at some other races through the end of the year. Then you got to get into editing, you got to get into post-production, visual effects. All of that has to take place before it'll finally get into production. They're thinking that this thing, by the end of it, might be one of the most expensive movies Apple has ever even thought about producing. Maybe in the $200 to $300 million budget range for a film that will get released not in movie theaters, but on Apple Plus.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute or two, boys and girls, won't you? And when we come back, we're going to go from open wheelers to, well, some of these guys have open wheels, but they only go in a straight line. It's the National Hot Rod Association. We'll talk about them when we come back. And we'll deal with a little bit of Formula E because there's been some clarification on the 2025 schedule. Some. Because there was a hole. We'll detail it next.
We will be right back with more. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Before we get into NHRA news, quick look at what's happening, I guess, because they just got done with Q2 over in Spain in Formula One.
They did. Now from wrong one.
The other one.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Advancing to Q3 is going to be Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Sainz, Piastri, Leclerc, Perez, Gasly, and Ocon.
Okay. So Hulkenberg is out.
Alonso, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Zhou Guan Yu from 11 to 15.
All right. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. Tony Stewart Racing began an NHRA arm back in 2022, worked up a deal with Dodge. So far, it's resulted in 15 national event wins between Top Fuel and Funny Car entries and a Funny Car title. Matt Hagan behind the wheel. So the two sides announced this week, to nobody's surprise, they're going to continue that partnership with a contract extension, details of which were not disclosed, so we don't know how long it is, in other words. Of the 15 event wins, Hagan has 12, Leah Pruitt has 3. Pruitt, though, is out of the Top Fuel ride. She and Tony Stewart trying to start a family this year, so the prospective dad-to-be is in the Top Fuel ride. He is in the top 10 in points going into this weekend's action in Richmond. He sits 9th. But and while he has gotten to the finals of like the Z-Max 4-wide drag racing at Charlotte, when it's 2-wide, he hasn't had quite as much success.
He's definitely done better in 4-wide than he has 2-wide.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses as this year continues on and what happens between him and Leah as far as them working on building that family up. You might have also noted that if you were listening at the beginning of the show that I termed this weekend's racing in the NHRA is the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals. And you might ask, what the heck is Play NHRA?
Yeah.
Well, lucky for you, you're listening to us because that's what we're here for. We tell you things like this. It's the NHRA basically getting into both fantasy sports and the betting game. Through the initiative, the NHRA set to partner with some leading sports books and fantasy sports sites, which will allow fans in the right states, Alabama not included, for example, to be able to sign up and legally wager on national event outcomes and prop bets throughout the weekend.
Thanks, Meemaw.
Yeah. NHRA Vice President and Chief Development Officer Brad Gerber said, quote, "We're extremely excited about Play NHRA, and this is another great opportunity to spread awareness about this initiative. Play NHRA is the ideal destination for fans to make safe and regulated betting on NHRA drag racing, participate in fantasy games, and feel even closer to the action." As noted earlier in the show, Formula One, Indycar, Formula E, they've all announced their schedules for next year. That leaves, of the series that we covered, NASCAR and the NHRA. Now, we've got hints from NASCAR. We've talked about that because based upon their new TV contracts, we know, for example, what we're going to be seeing for the most part when it comes to Amazon Prime. We know TNT and what at least they're going to start with, so we have a pretty good idea of some things. We know when the Daytona 500 is going to be. We know the season's going to end at Phoenix, for example. Mm-hmm. But we don't know the rest.
Some of the YouTubers do.
Yeah, right. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
As for 2025 in the NHRA, we didn't know anything until this week when they finally stated that the 2025 season will once again begin with the Gator Nationals. For more than 50 years, the Gator Nationals has been a centerpiece of NHRA top-level competition. Next year will mark the 3rd straight year the season will begin with it. All 4 Mission Foods drag racing divisions will participate in the season opener. Tickets have gone on sale for the event. But as to when the rest of the schedule will be announced, officials did not say. But at least we got the first domino, so hopefully that means fairly soon.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
And speaking of schedules, for Formula E, we noted the schedule for next year in the all-electric series, but we also told you on the air here that there is one date that is not 100% locked down. The date it's March 8th. But if you look out beside it, it is officially listed as TBD, to be determined. The website, autosport.com, is reporting that it appears it is going to be Thailand, specifically in the city of Chiang Mai. It's the 2nd largest city in the country and likely would be another street course set somewhere in the city, but the contracts aren't finalized, so no specifics are being released at this time. Again, leader in the clubhouse, nothing specific. We're just going by what autosport.com is saying. As for the race here in the U.S., We also told you that it will be taking place at Homestead Miami Speedway, and Formula E officials confirm it will use at least the majority of the infield road course, but they do state potentially it may use a portion of the oval track as well. Homestead Miami becomes the 5th venue for Formula E here in the United States. In year 1, they used a street course in downtown Miami, specifically the Biscayne Bay area. Then they moved up over to Long Beach, kind of took the Long Beach IndyCar course, which I don't know why you would have left that, personally.
Yeah.
Especially to go to New York City. New York City.
Yeah.
So they moved to New York City for a few years. Construction near that course caused them to move to Portland the past couple of years. Now they're back to Miami. They're using the track, obviously known for hosting NASCAR. And again, they haven't specified exactly how much of the road course they're going to use, what part of the course they're going to use. None of that. None of that's been confirmed. We don't know, but we're giving you all the information that we've got. Okay? So let's go back to the keyboard warrior thing.
Please, let's do.
Because, again, it's real easy. Social media, and I'm on 2 of them. I'm on Facebook, and I've got, I don't even know how many connections. Facebook calls them friends. How many of them are actually my friends? A couple hundred. The rest of them are connections. I mean, let's just be real. Yeah. I've probably got, 4,300 to 4,500 connections on Facebook. I just started on Twix, the former Twitter, now X. I'm just combining the 2 and calling it Twix. If you want to connect with me on Twix, by all means, go to look up at Steve West CRN. More than happy to have you. Do I do a whole lot? No. But over the course of time, we have noted, and we've talked about this, that being on this computer right here,
or behind this,
or being on this, a phone, gives you a certain amount of anonymity when it comes to social media.
Certain.
And it could lead somebody, and it has, to think, hey, I'm never going to see certain person, fill in the blank here.
Sure.
Face to face. I'll never see them. So therefore, I'm going to be a jackass. And I'm going to send them a post, or I'm going to send them a DM, or I'm going to fire off an email, or whatever it is that they're going to do, and they're going to say something that, truth be told, they would never say to your face.
True.
And now we've got YouTube out there, and we're part of YouTube. I mean, CRN Live on YouTube. Our podcast, Cross Flags, ends up on YouTube, 2 different channels, thanks to Jocks and thanks to our own CRN Live. Mm-hmm. We appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And thanks to our fine friends here at 95.1 The Mountain for allowing us to put this on YouTube as well, via CRN Live. It's great stuff. It can be used for really cool things. Heck, I have gone into what some friends of mine call rabbit holes on YouTube many, many times. I love going through car videos and seeing some of the really cool stuff that people pop out. And quite frankly, seeing some of the dumb commentary that comes out of it as well. Mm-hmm. But you and I have also said this. Mm-hmm. We're not the only ones launching a show like this, a racing show. We all want to make our way in this world.
Sure.
And let's face it, the pie's big enough to where if you bring something relatively fresh to the table, there's room for you there.
Sure.
Okay, and it's why we decided not to just concentrate on NASCAR. There's myriad of shows out there that concentrate on NASCAR. There's several shows that are out there that concentrate just on Formula One, just on IndyCar, just on Formula E, just on the NHRA, just on IMSA or ARCA or whatever other motorsport series you want to think of.
Exactly.
That's why we decided that over the course of time, as we grew from a little 15-minute segment on a Saturday show at one point in time to an hour long, and then we became 2 hours, that it just seemed to make sense that we start to look at some of the bigger racing series that are out there. And we went from NASCAR, and somebody said, hey, you ever thought about including Formula One? Okay, that's not a bad idea, but if we're going to include Formula One, maybe we should include IndyCar. Mm-hmm. And then this curiosity of Formula E came out, and then the NHRA really started to kind of make inroads with their contract with Fox. And, that's where we got to where we are today. Sure. Just to kind of separate ourselves out. Said it before, I'll say it again. Centerpiece of this show has always been, I'd rather be last on a story than be right than be first on a story and get it wrong. Because I don't want to ruin our credibility with you, our listener/viewer. You should be able to come to us and know that what we're bringing to you is, to the best of our ability and knowledge, the truth at that particular time. Have we been wrong? Yes. And we've come to you and stated we were wrong. We're more than happy to do it.
And as well, at the same time, too, we'll share things. When we share things, it's from credible, and that term is used in all caps.
Sure.
Credible other sources, like, hey, keep your eyes on this.
Oh, yeah.
Keep your eyes on that. Or nor do you see us putting anything out just to get clicks.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to sit here like we did when we were talking about what might happen with the Stewart-Haas racing drivers, we told you at that point in time, you knew at that point in time, that's our speculation. There's nothing concrete there except for what Seabell said during the media session yesterday, in that it does appear that Chase Briscoe, even though it hasn't been officially announced by Joe Gibbs, it appears that Chase Briscoe is going to be in the 19 car. That comes from Christopher Bell. Everything else is just us kind of going, okay, let's see if we can't connect the dots and figure out who might be going where, and understanding that we don't have any pull and we don't have any say in that. But that's not stopping some people from going on to social media because they've got a page, or going onto YouTube and creating videos and saying, oh, I'm a social media influencer. No, you're not. You just happen to have a site. Congratulations. So does 99% of the rest of the civilized world.
Right. So
Matt, take it from here.
I had James Greer, in our YouTube live chat.
Yeah.
Saying when we're talking about YouTube, we're talking about the Daily Downforce and who it's ran by. I'm not going to say the name.
No.
Not only through their YouTube, but through their Twitter, Twix, X, whatever.
Sure. Name it.
There are not one, but two posts, in the last 14 hours. Not 14 days, 14 hours.
It's pretty recent.
Of, and I quote, asking the question, are the cars getting too loud? Does NASCAR have to start making them quieter to keep new fans and keep manufacturers happy?
What?
Their last post. Do you find yourself thinking the NASCAR cars are too loud? Time out.
I've never thought that the NASCAR cars were too loud.
People, this is motorsports. We're not going to sit at an opera house and listen to the violins and cellos and the little saxophones, horns, and whatever.
No.
We're not listening to that.
Nope.
You're going to a motorsports event to purposely lose your hearing.
Oh, yeah. That's all part of the process. You're going there not just to watch the cars go around whatever the track is, be it an oval or a road or a street course. You're going there for the atmosphere, the noise, the smell.
I have never heard people.
That's good.
Heard people say when they left the track, "Oh, that was too loud." My God, they're wanting to go hear it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
stop.
And I'll tell you this. I mean, you and I have gone to Atlanta. I had the chance back in 2021 to go to Indianapolis, and I sat up under the canopy, okay, underneath the covering. The noise will reverberate. I'll tell you right now, not a bad idea to bring some hearing protection. I mean, I've left Atlanta without it, and I felt like I was at a rock concert. My ears were ringing, okay? So, yeah, no, not necessarily the worst idea to bring hearing protection if you're going to sit underneath a covered grandstand, because, yes, it can get loud, but, again, that's part of the atmosphere. You go there for the noise. You go there for the smells of burnt rubber and burnt race gas. It's the sounds, it's the sights, it's the smells, it's everything.
I don't think drag racing fans go to NHRA to go like, oh my gosh, that's too loud.
Yeah. If it's too loud, stay away and stop posting about it.
Yeah. Delete your page.
We'll talk to you next week here on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
And W236 CQ 90.